Hello everyone, it is Sunday night and we are here live at Bat City Comic Professionals to wind down your weekend. As always, I am your host, Shannon, aka Small Press Shann, to talk to you about all of the indie and small press books that came out this week. It's been a weird, crazy week for Bat City, and we're definitely going to talk about all of the crazy stuff that happened in just a second. But as always, we want to kick it off by talking about how we're winding down our weekend. So we've got line 39. It's not in the shot, so I'm going to move it over here. Line 39. This is a Pinot Noir out of California. And they're like, their whole thing is that they want to have like this nice big flavor, and this one specifically says it tastes oaky and mushroomy on the back, so now I know why Matt picked it. So we're gonna see if it actually embodies those flavors when we take a drink right now. Yep, earth, mushroom, and toasty oak. You can smell those things when you pick it up. I honestly think that most of the time when I try to smell wine, like 90% of the time, it either smells sweet or just smells like wine. But I can actually smell like toasty oak on this.
It's very oaky.
It's very delicious.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan. I'm excited.
Very thin.
It is a very thin. I've noticed that I always thought that Pinot Noirs were a thicker red because they are so dark, but I'm starting to notice that that's not necessarily the case because we've had a lot of really thin ones recently. And I don't know if that's something to do with like the grapes from that time period, or if maybe Noirs don't necessarily need to be thick, because Cab Sabs are usually creamier and Cab Francs are definitely really creamy. So I'm wondering if these are supposed to be a little bit thinner but darker nonetheless. I am going to share this. Let's talk comics. And then this has been, I should have brought my puzzle. This has been a great week of craziness for Bat City. We have had, I know we were closed a couple of days in there, and thank you everybody for bearing with us. This last Friday, just like 2 days ago, I spoke at the TEDx Bradenton event about comics in the classroom and using comics to help young people learn how to write their own future and find their voice. It was a really incredible experience. So thank you, TEDx Bradenton, and all of the team that goes into making that happen for an incredible opportunity. And a big shout out to all of my fellow speakers who have been working for months to write their speeches and memorize them and build their PowerPoint presentations and things like that. It was such a long process, but they all nailed it in the end, and it was so awesome to get to see the fruits of their labor come to life. So thank you again, and thank you to everybody who came. There were so many Bat City Bat Fam members in the audience throughout the day, which was really great. When I was standing on the side about to go in for my time to talk, I saw so many people like wave from the side. So it was an awesome experience. And thank you to everybody who watched online while that live stream was still up. I got so many messages and photos from people sharing watching the live stream, which was really cool. So thank you everybody for your continuous support, and we'll see what happens next. We know there's something great and wonderful lying around every corner here at Bat City, so I can't wait to see what the next things are going to be. We have this week coming up, we have our creator meetup. So if you are a writer, an artist, a colorist, a person who's always wanted to be any of those things in any medium, this is a great time to come out and just meet other people who like to create things. That is at 7 o'clock this Thursday, October 5th, which is another big announcement, I guess. Happy Halloween month. It is officially the month of Halloween, which means it's Halloween for the next 31 days. So happy Halloween, everybody. Yes, creator meetup this Thursday, October 5th, 7 o'clock. It is free to come and just hang out, have some fun. We always draw on the table, even those of us who can't draw, and we talk about ways to promote your books if you have some, or ways to get started on it. So it's a lot of fun to just meet people at all different stages and see what their excitement is. Do we have anything else? No, I think there's probably some other stuff. The October calendar is dropping this week. It'll probably drop tomorrow on our Facebook and then our Instagram. So if you have been waiting, there's just been a couple of things that we were waiting on to finalize for the month of October. So hopefully that calendar will probably drop Tuesday, if not later tomorrow. So keep an eye out on Facebook and Instagram for that October calendar of events. All right, I'm going to take another drink of this delicious wine. And now we're going to talk about some comic books. Oh my gosh. That's my favorite part, where I get to be like, it was a great week for comic books this week. And I say that every week, and it's still always true. And we're going to kick it off starting with What's the Furthest Place from Here, issue 14 from Image Comics and Matthew Rosenberg and Tyler Boss, who are most known for their 4 Kids Walk Into a Bank series. However, at this point, I think we're probably going to be most known for What's the Furthest Place from Here. If you have never read this is the story of a post-apocalyptic world where nobody can go over the age of 18. And so these kids all have broken up into different places and developed their own families. And each family is themed by the place that they are living in. And so we've been following the family that lived inside of a record store. And at the very beginning of the series, one of the characters named Sid went missing. And she was pregnant and about to be 18. And so everybody was like, oh, well, she went off to kind of just do her thing. But they were like, that's so weird. She wouldn't have just left without saying goodbye. So the first couple of volumes was all trying to figure out what happened to Sid and the family story of them going out and kind of getting split up in all of the different places that they traveled to. And this volume has been all about Sid's story and everything that she went through on her own. And we are starting to see a lot more of this world and what it's like when you are in that situation. And this has been a crazy, crazy story. And this is the volume I've been waiting for. The whole time I've just wanted to know what happened to Sid. Cannot wait to see how they wrap this up. Honestly, can't wait to see how they wrap up the whole series. As much as I want it to last for a really long time, I also just want to be like, where are we going and how are we going to get there? I'm not really sure, honestly, what the ultimate point of the series will be, but I have enjoyed every bit of the destination or the journey to that destination, wherever it may lead us. So if you haven't started What's the Furthest Place from Here, you can get a trade paperback for that first beginning and kind of get started on that. And, if you can find the vinyls, you should grab those vinyls that come with the additional printings. By the Horns, Dark Earth. This is issue 12 of this volume of By the Horns, issue 20 overall from Scout Comics. And this is the story of a woman named Elodie, who her husband was killed by, she believed, a unicorn. And so in the very first volume, she's been on this war path, essentially, to kill unicorns. And then, of course, comes to this understanding that that's not what happens. And there's like this evil sorcerer and bad things. And so this whole volume has been her trying to get back to a place where pure magic exists so that she can get that magic and bring it back to her homeland and kind of save them because the world is dying there. And so she's been on this quest, and things have not gone particularly well at any point in time. But as we are getting to this like build up in this issue of them finding this magic and what they're going to do with it and who's going to come for them, we kind of see it all come to a head. And we end up this volume. So this is the end of the Dark Earth volume. We are going to be launching into a By the Horns, what do they call it? Fire in the Sky. Will be our next volume that will be kicking off, that will lead us on to where this adventure continues. But honestly, this has some of the best coloring. I absolutely love the bright color choices that they use in this book. It's so beautiful and has always just, like, there's every volume of this has at least one issue that makes me cry. So I'm so excited for people to get that book as it continues to go on and on. Newburn, issue 11 from Image Comics. This is the story of a detective who works for all of the mob families. Basically, it's the only thing the mob kind of agrees on is that they all use the same person, who's this neutral party former police officer who works as their detective. And over the course of the last 10 issues, he has made some choices, some of which have led to some people from the mob families being put into jail. And now a mob member, a high, don of a mob, has died. And they are looking for the answers as to who killed them. And he's been covering a lot of this stuff up. So he's kind of on the chopping block himself, as is his partner, who he took on as an apprentice. And she's kind of like, ooh, am I going to die? Are we all going to die? Great classic crime story from Chip Zdarsky with Jacob Phillips on art, who, of course, has been raised in that crime noir genre his whole life. Because his dad is Sean Phillips of the pulp universe with Ed Brubaker. But you also get these cool backup stories that kind of just give you another little side story of some people in the neighborhood, and they're always in black and white, and they're super cool. Great little crime stories as well. So if you are a fan of traditional detective work, but you want to see somebody kind of play with that medium a little bit and kind of bring that story to a new place, Chip Zdarsky is obviously a great person to do that, as he's been on Daredevil for a long time period, and Batman. It's like he knows how to write some detectives. So Dead Lucky, issue 9 from Image Comics, and this is a part of your massive verse. So whether or not you actually are reading Radiant Black or any of its connecting titles doesn't really matter, because you can read this one standalone. And this is about a girl named BB who was a leader, a platoon, a squadron leader in the military, and her entire troop was destroyed, and she's the only one that made it back, and now she's being haunted by the ghosts of them. But those ghosts are also giving her the energy she needs to continue. And she's been working, at this point, she's working with the people who kind of took over her town that she was trying to stop in volume 1. Now she's kind of working with / against them at the same time to just kind of bring this balance to the force, so we'll call it. And when she goes on this operative mission at the beginning of this volume, she finds herself face to face with somebody that she has always thought was one of her ghosts. And now she's having to reevaluate everything and kind of figure out what it is that she's pulling power from, and who it is, and who she wants to be, and who all these people are. One of the things I love about this book the most, though, is at the back of every issue, they do always provide contact information and resources for people suffering with PTSD. And it's if you have experienced any of the trauma or any of the feelings that are talked about in this book, here's a helpline, please call them. And I love that they continuously put that in there as a reminder that PTSD is a very tough thing for people to go through, and I do love the support that they put out. Second Coming, Trinity, issue 6 from Ahoy Comics, and this is the end of this volume of Second Coming. This is one of my favorite comic books. If you've ever been inside of Bat City physically, I have probably told you have to read Second Coming, because I have an obsession with this story. It was the first thing that came out of my mouth when I met Mark Russell. It's so good, but it is the story of essentially a Superman-style character who is married to a Lois Lane, who wants to have a baby, and he makes a deal with God, and God sends Jesus himself to kind of be there for him to practice raising on, and they've become best friends and former roommates, and just kind of are both kind of balancing that idea of, am I a hero? Does the world want me here? Should I be something else? What does being a hero mean? What does being a savior mean? And it's always an incredible conversation. But in this volume, our superhero has finally actually gotten his kid, and the young child has never understood how to control his powers, and he doesn't really understand how to listen. And Jesus has kind of been hey, at some point, sometimes people like us have to go away from their family and learn to do things on their own. And so this has been ongoing theme of this series. This volume is, are they going to be able to let their son, take their son to another planet in the same way that the Superman character was sent to our world, and as was Jesus, and Jesus even left his home within the earth. And so it's been a huge ongoing struggle, and a great story of parenting in this volume, and the idea of having to let go of your child to be there for them in the right way. And the cliffhanger. Mark Russell is the master of cliffhangers. Everything he's doing right now, he's just throwing these god-awful cliffhangers at us. That pun was definitely intended. For us to really just dwell until the next issue or the next volume on what is going to happen next. And this one is no exception. If you have been following Second Coming for a while, there is some stuff in there that will be relevant to you that is like, oh my God. So read Second Coming. It's amazing. Trade paperbacks are available for the earlier volumes, and you'll want to read them. Kara, Guardian of the Realms, issue 8 from Viziate Entertainment. This is Viziate's first title, and I am so excited to see that it is just an ongoing. We looked it up, and like, this isn't even going to be the last issue. We have plenty more to go. But Kara is an all ages book, and it's absolutely gorgeous and wonderful at all times. But she is the Guardian of the Realms, and so her job is to keep the world in balance. She helps the animals keep from fighting or struggling or starving, and she helps the plants grow. And in the very first issue, 2 kids come who say they're from the future, who have come back just to research her. But we know that they are not just researching. They are actually trying to steal the life source, essentially, from her planet or her realm, so that they can take it back to the future and have more to live off of, because they've destroyed the earth. Meanwhile, in our realm, there is a grandmother and granddaughter who have always heard the stories of the Guardians of the Realm. And just there's some connection between them and the Guardians, but they don't know what it is. And in the last issue, everything kind of came to a head, and Kara feels like the humans that she's met from the future and the animal guardians that she's always worked to protect are all kind of plotting against her. And she runs away to the human realm and ends up meeting the grandmother and the granddaughter. And now those stories are all intersecting. And we're starting to see, you know, who can you trust? Can you trust yourself? Who are you? Do you know who you are? Like, if you've been in this role your whole life, are you defined by that role, or is it like you who defines the role you're in? Absolutely gorgeous, stunning story with a lot of beautiful mythology worked into it. So this is a great one to share with your kids, or just yourself if you are an adult without kids. I'm going to take another drink really fast. All right. We've got Maskerade issue 8 from Dark Horse Comics and the Secret Stash imprint. Oh my gosh. And this, which is Kevin Smith's imprint at Dark Horse, if you didn't catch that from the Secret Stash. And this is the last issue of this as well. And this is the story of a girl who goes by Felicia, which is not her real name, but she goes by Felicia, and she has a show called By Felicia, where she basically exposes bad people in the world in various levels of that. And over the course of the series, she has been exposing these different people for minor crimes, but now she has gathered everyone who has been experimenting on children over the course of years, and all the people who have been a part of it, from like the orphanage people to the doctors to the person in charge of the pharmaceutical company. And she's got them all trapped in cages, and she is going out for one big last hurrah, where she is going to burn them all to the ground, both metaphorically and physically. So she is doing her last episode of her show, and she's really trying to make an impact, because these people not only have been harming other children, but they were the people who made her who she is. And I don't want to spoil anything else, because it is the ending. So she is like, this is where I came from, this is all of my experience, and I hate these people, and this is why I do what I do. And so it's absolutely a fantastic, like, revenge story. It's 8 issues of purely perfectly sculpted revenge, and I'm so happy with how they wrap that series up. Summoner's War Awakening, issue 6 from Image Comics. This is volume 2 of Summoner's War, and yes, you do need to read volume 1, because volume 2 picks up literally right to like the second where volume 1 ended. But this is about a young girl who finds out that she has the power to summon these mythical creatures, essentially, that can help her fight in battle. Kind of like Pokemon. It does actually, there is a mobile game for this, so it's very similar. But she has been paired with a boy who is supposed to be her defender, and the two of them have been on this epic adventure to try to get this artifact to the people who can protect it and them. And in this volume, they've been teaming up with these pirates, space pirates, and kind of trying to help them on their quest. And she's like, I really love this pirate, she's super cool, and they're like, no, like, he's like, well, they're pirates and they're not actually like out for the best of anybody's interest, and so they've kind of had to learn a little bit about themselves in this journey. This is the last issue of this arc, and they are saying that this might actually be the last issue overall, and I would be really, really sad if it is, because it leaves you on a monstrous like cliffhanger, but it's just kind of also a perfect modern American open ending at the same time, because it's like, oh, I could see how this could work out as an ending, but I really don't want it to be. This Summoner's War consistently is the surprising book to me. Like, usually when there's a book that's based on a game, especially a mobile game, it's like, oh, like, how great is the story going to be? Because I'm going to expect it to just be completely tied to the game, or I don't know the game, so, like, do the characters even matter to me? This story has consistently surprised me. I want an animated series of it. I want a continuation of this. Like, honestly, they probably should have just made this into a manga, because it would flow really well as one of those as well. But, you know, if you don't have to stop, I know there's a licensing thing here, but if you don't have to stop, please don't, because I really want to see this story continue to go on and that adventure continue to grow, because it has been so much fun. And I hope that it never ends, even though it says in the letter at the back that it will. But I'm going to pretend in my heart. Like, I'm like, do I have to write Summoner's War fan fiction for a game I've never played because I'm so obsessed with the comic book? It might happen. Hold that thought. Monomyth, issue 5 from Madcave. This is the story of a wizard who is basically trying to pass on, like, you know, their lineage. Essentially, every 1,000 years, like, a new wizard is chosen. And usually there's one wizard who's pulled to this mysterious mansion, and they have to face these challenges, and then once they're done, they take over. Well, they went to do that this time, and 7 people showed up. And so there's 7 people who are possibly this generation's greatest wizard, who have no knowledge of magic or anything, and they have to now make it through these challenges, and they don't really do a good job of that. But one of the things that we learn over the course of this is that to use magic, it comes from your personal story. And if you try to use someone else's story to make your magic, it won't work for you. And I really, really love that, because even in this issue, they're like, oh, if we want to stop magic, like, maybe we should get rid of these books. And it's like, I don't want to burn books. And they're like, I don't want to burn books either. But, like, if stories really are our magic in our world, what else is there to do? One of the groups of people that there's, like I said, there were 7 that showed up. 2 of them are actually estranged twins. And so we know that we're probably going to see some kind of ultimate balance battle that will have to happen, that we're kind of building towards. And I absolutely cannot wait. The character development in this has come very quickly, because we are only 5 issues in, and we had 7 characters to kind of tell their story of. And I love that they do it through this magical movement. And each time we kind of get a little bit more for these twins. And so I can't wait to see how their story together actually plays out. But Madcave is just crushing it with some really great books right now. And if you didn't hear the announcement, Madcave just announced that they are bringing back Dick Tracy. And I'm super excited about that. So cannot wait to see this new world of Dick Tracy that's going to come from Madcave soon. Savage Strength of Starstorm, issue 5. From Image Comics. This is honestly like if you made a 90s comic for teenagers in the now. You kind of would get this story. But this is about a boy who suddenly, like, an asteroid hits the Earth, and he suddenly has these superpowers. And he's kind of been trying to live that superhero life a little bit. And as things have gone on, his best friend and a girl that he has made a crush on, like, also have kind of been drugged into this superhero battle. And in the last issue, they found out that an epic battle was coming to the world in the future, and they were kind of the only people that can stop it. And when they came out of this secret realm where they were talking about what was going to happen and how bad it was going to be, the battle had already happened and they had missed it. And everybody was, like, either in bunkers hiding or in, like, these camps that they'd been rounded up to, and the bad guys had taken over. And so now they are trying to meet with other heroes who have come into existence while they were gone or who existed before from other universes, and they are trying to figure out how to save the day. And we're going to get some really great battle scenes, I think, coming our way from these characters. But these kids are just like, I love it because one of the kids in the group calls it out. Like, some of the other characters will be like, oh, well, we're going to do this. And they're like, that's derivative. Or like, he's just like making all the comments that you think when you read like old 90s comics or even some of the like really cliche books. And I love that he just fills those thoughts in for us. Void Rivals, issue 4 from Image and the Skybound imprint. For those of you who have asked me, when does Transformers come out? When does G.I. Joe come out? Can I get Duke when it comes out in December? Here's the thing. This is where you start. You start at Void Rivals. This is what is building our Energon universe, aka your crossover between the Transformers and G.I. Joe. And do I know how any of the things that happen in Void Rivals connects to that? No, I don't. But you might, or you might at least get excited. And it is Robert Kirkman, known for Walking Dead and Invincible. But this has been the story of two people who are from two warring planets. And they both crash land while in middle battle. They kind of take each other down, and they crash land on this planet. And they immediately want to like kill the other one, and then they realize that neither one of them have a working ship. So the only way that they're going to get off the planet is if they work together. And in the process of that, they actually remove their helmets, and it's the first time the average person from either planet has experienced the other planet people, and they realize they look exactly the same, and they've been told their whole life that the other people were very different and they were monstrous and they were going to attack them, and now they've realized that there's actually not that much difference, if any difference, between them. And so they've been working together to get off of this planet, and now they're like, hey, we're gonna have to tell our people that like maybe we're not different. And one of them makes some really bad choices and leads us to where we are in this issue, which leads us to more bad choices and some big revelations. So if you haven't been picking up Void Rivals yet, but you're excited for the Transformers G.I. Joe crossover universe, you need to grab this and get ready, because this is where Kirkman is laying the groundwork for that entire thing. And then you're going to have Daniel Warren Johnson on Transformers and actually have Larry Hama on G.I. Joe. So it is staying in those big worlds that you love. The Oddly Pedestrian Life of Christopher Chaos, issue 4 from Dark Horse. And this is a Tiny Onion book. So that means this is a James Tynion idea, Tate Brombal on the writing. And this is Universal Monsters in your modern time. We've got a young boy named Christopher Chaos who has the Frankenstein mind of and skill of being able to bring people back from the dead, but he feels very left out and weird and strange all the time. And he has a pigeon who's his best friend, who he brought back from the dead. And in the very first issue, he is going out to follow this boy that he has a crush on into the woods, and something happens, and this cult-like group of people shows up, and they just absolutely attack this man, and he doesn't really make it through. And Christopher is like, oh my god, I have to figure out how to do this. And so now Christopher has been teaming up with other people who have different creature style existences to try to figure out what's going on and how they can save themselves and each other. And a very large, very strange man that none of them have ever met before, who goes by Adam, has just shown up and is kind of helping them / guiding them to where they need to be. And so we are kind of building our squad of people that are going to go after this dark cult. Meanwhile, we also have like a police officer who's investigating everything, and she seems to have a little bit more knowledge of the monstrous world that they've heard of, but isn't necessarily connected in the way that she thinks she should be. So it's just a fun story. Like I said, it's kind of like a teen Universal Monster world. So if you haven't read it yet, and you love the Universal Monsters, and you love Tate Brombal, who does House of Slaughter, this is a great way to get something else from Tate and James Tynion that's kind of still monstrous. Under the Influence, issue 3 from Madcave. I really love this book, and I don't think I talk about how much I love this book enough. This is the story of a guy who gets really, really, really popular on social media, and he starts this ridiculous like hot dog society, and they honestly start doing like crazy things like robbing people and killing people and doing all of this stuff. And so of course the FBI gets wind of it, and they're like, we're gonna have to send somebody undercover. And so they send a girl who was raised in a cult and has now become an FBI agent, but also is a social media influencer at the same time. So she goes to this college campus to work undercover, and literally every single thing that could possibly go wrong has gone wrong. Like FBI agent accidentally shooting somebody and things like that. And so this has become an insanely crazy story of her just trying to stay clear and stay undercover, and her handlers just messing everything up. Meanwhile, like, she instantly met like the ultimate guy, and it was, well, maybe you should just, like, change things up. And he's like, yes, I want out. I didn't ever mean for any of this to happen. But then, like, does he really actually mean anything he says? Or is he playing her too because he has a really great idea of who she is somehow automatically? It is a great look at social media. It's a great look at how, like, cults begin. It is such a just, like, twist and turn where every time you think you're kind of figuring it out with her, something, like, turns you in another direction. And you honestly have no idea, like, where you're going to end up next. And so if you are looking for just a good mystery thriller kind of book, this is going to be a good one for that, for sure. Alice Never After, issue 3 from Boom Studios, and this is volume 2 of Alice Ever After, which, yes, you do need to read Alice Ever After to read Alice Never After. Don't jump in here. You will be lost. But Alice Ever After was the story of Alice from Alice in Wonderland, and we're still kind of basically believing at this point that Alice is never, her Wonderland is a drug-induced thing, and her dad put her into... or wanted her to go to a psych ward and everything, and she ended up checking herself in volume 1, and all of the characters from the Wonderland world are also characters in this asylum, like insane asylum essentially, and she has been kind of trying to make the right choices. She wants to kind of help her family out, so she's like, the best thing I can do is get clean and get out of here, and then bad things happen all over that asylum. And now in volume 2, she kind of at the end of volume 1 is like, I'm making the choice to stay inside Wonderland forever. And she's committed herself to that. And so in this volume, she's actually taken the place of the Queen of Hearts and is ruling over Wonderland, and has found that maybe the Queen of Hearts wasn't always a crazy, angry person. Maybe it's actually having to deal with all the people from Wonderland that drives you insane. And so she's kind of losing her head, pun intended entirely, dealing with this. And now the new thing is, Alice, you must have a king. And so all of the random Wonderland creatures have started coming out of the woodwork, offering their hand to Alice in marriage. And we are going to see where this leads for Alice. And it's, oh my gosh, it's so good. If you're an Alice in Wonderland fan, this is one of the best in Alice in Wonderland, like, kind of style books that I have ever seen. So check it out. Beowulf, issue 3 from Comicsburgh. This is a modern day retelling of Beowulf, and it stars a bunch of kind of reluctant heroes. We've got a little girl who had a cat, and now her cat can speak to her, and was apparently like the one that was supposed to find the next person who could slay the beast kind of situation. So this girl and her cat have gone looking for the hero. Turns out he's kind of just your lovable loser, not really good at anything. And they are trying to help him figure out how he can get trained and take on the monster, except the cat's doing a very bad job of training him, because it's just like halving it. Like, he's like, oh, you can, you need to do this, and then doesn't actually teach him how to do any of that. And now our hero is getting back, like, he's transporting himself back in time to kind of get to the stuff that he's supposed to be battling. It's not going well. We learn some very important things about dragon's blood and its healing properties, and it gets kind of hilarious at the end. But this is a great way to not only have like little tidbits of the Beowulf story in there, but also just have some fun with it, because that is such a deep and heavy story, and they've made it kind of almost comedic and actiony in this book. So it's a lot of fun for Beowulf fans. Junction Jones and the Corduroy Conspiracy, issue 3 from Scout Comics. This has been a slow coming out series. I think that issue 2 was forever ago. I almost don't even remember. But I'm so glad that we finally got this issue 3. This is the story of a guy who is, and also has like a cat buddy that he talks to, and they have been investigating a lot of stuff that's been, you know, this big murder mystery. They're trying to figure it out. And I love issue 2 because we got a whole conversation on a train, and they were kind of trying to piece it all together. But now they've gone into this underworld, like the seedy underbelly of the city, and they have been trying to track down somebody that they think can give them some information. And what they learn when they get there is that they're further along in their case than they thought they were. And they are always, always in danger no matter what they do. And poor Junction Jones is just not able to get there fast enough anytime. Every issue when he's like trying to piece stuff together and he's on this investigation, something bad just flings him in the other direction, and this is no exception. So again, this is kind of like your space version of a crime book, so like your detective story. So if you want more of that futuristic space world but you still like detective stories, this is going to be a really good one for that. Bryn Mawr, issue 3 from IDW and their original imprint. And this is Steve Niles' newest book. And I'm very excited because usually we only get 2 issue stories from Steve Niles. It's like, here's the beginning and here's the end. And this is an ongoing, at least 4 or 5 issues probably for this story. But this is the story of a guy who decides to return home to an island that is literally named for his family. He lives on Turner Island. And he returns home, and everybody's mad about it. They're like, you cursed our families. You've cursed our entire world. We hate you. How dare you come back here? And he's like, I don't know why everybody hates me. I don't really know what the Turner curse is and why people are mad about it. So he's like, I'm just going to restore the old church that my family used to have, and I'm going to live in there. And while he's doing that, he uncovers something crazy underneath the church. I'm going to show you this cool picture. He uncovers something crazy in the basement of the church, and kind of opens up an entire world of danger, and just unleashes evil in so many ways on this town. What's cool is that we actually finally get what the Turner curse is and when it started, and how it inflicted all the people of the island. We also learn how it became to be called Turner Island in this issue. So I love that this issue 3 not only gives us a big turning point for our action, but it also gives us big turning points for the history and exposition of the story that we haven't seen yet. So a lot of fun for spooky season. If you need a good spooky book to start you off for October, I recommend you pick up Bryn Mawr. Godzilla, War for Humanity, issue 2 from IDW. This book is just one of the most fun Godzilla books on the shelf right now, with just bright color pop art kind of images. But this is about a girl who is a scientist who kind of actually, I think in the first issue, she's actually giving a TED Talk about Godzilla and how he is a helper for humanity and not a nuisance and not somebody that's attacking them. And now she's working with this crew of people who are trying to get some kaijus that are attacking to stop attacking and redirect them, and kind of studying them and moving them on. And she's like, don't worry, Godzilla will come and help us. And they're like, Godzilla's not coming. Godzilla doesn't like people. He's mad at us for being terrible and destroying the world. And she goes on this adventure to try to find a cave that is supposed to let you talk to kaiju, so that she can figure out how to talk to Godzilla. And when it doesn't work, she is a little nervous that she was wrong about Godzilla the whole time, and starts to rethink everything she's ever believed. And some special friends come and let her know that there's more kaiju in this world than just Godzilla, who are always willing to help. And while Godzilla does want to help, sometimes he needs some buddies along the way. And one of my favorite buddies comes to play in this one. And it's absolutely adorable. So if you haven't read this and you're a Godzilla fan, this is like the Godzilla book to pick up, because it gives you everything. You get all the different kaijus, you get the fun art. They also talk about humanity and like how humans destroy it. And so it's like they took all the themes of Godzilla and actually put them in a very easy like package for any age range to get. And then they use like every single kaiju you've ever seen in Godzilla. So up next, we've got Dust, issue 2 from Scout Comics. This was a huge hit for issue 1. I had so many people coming in and asking me for Dust when it came out. So then you had that Scout 2-month wait period, so that it gives people time to get excited about that issue 1 and subscribe to it. So I don't want you to forget that Dust does exist, and it is back out this week with issue 2. This is the story of a world where kind of like a tank girl, kind of like a Mad Max world, where the world has been destroyed and only like certain people live in the colonies that have all the food, which goes to all the rich people, and all the water, and the rest kind of live in this deserted, terrible place where they're all dying and killing each other for food and things like that. And so a young girl shows up, and she has always been the one who robs the rich and takes the food back and gives it to the people in the different communities. And in issue 1, we learn that there is something special about her blood and where she comes from. And now we've got in issue 2 the people who are in charge of the world and the people who are kind of like the rebellion leaders and some of the just local people, all looking for her for different reasons, whether it's bounties, or she could save the world, or she could destroy everything we've built. We've got a lot of people coming after her, and in this issue a lot of that comes head to head, and we just see a lot of really big movement in this story. But this is that classic, like, oh, is this kid going to be the savior of the world or the destruction of it kind of story, but it's done in such a really cool way. So if you like those Mad Max kind of worlds, this is going to be a great way to get that hero's journey in that world. And whether or not we see where this girl is going to take us into the beginning, we're going to find out. Kaptara, issue 2 from Image Comics, and this is the new volume. This is Universal's Truths. It's the latest volume of Kaptara, which is a story that Chip Zdarsky was doing a long time ago and kind of tabled, and now it is back. But this is about a guy who was trying to do was on some kind of adventure, ended up getting thrown into an entirely different world, and has been trying to find his way back to Earth ever since. And him and his crew have aligned with different people and different crazy animal type things. And in this one, we find out that the plant people have some of his people have joined forces with the plant people, which is crazy. Like, you actually turn into a giant plant and just your head is there. Insane. But they have figured out a way of us, or so they think, of getting to transfer themselves to whatever place in the world that they want to go to. And so it's like, hey, you could go home and so could all of your people, or we could use it to join the bad guys. And so we've got these two conflicting sides now. Honestly, I think you need to read Kaptara if you're gonna try to jump into this. It's very confusing. It does seem to pick up right where Chip Zdarsky left off in the past. And so if you haven't read that, I think you're gonna be a little confused with the story. I'm going to take another drink really fast, and we are drinking Line 39 Pinot Noir this week to wind down our weekend. And it's supposed to be, they say this is an earthy, mushroomy, oaky wine, and I think that is all a great way to describe this. They also say it's a plush body, and that's definitely true. I feel like I can taste all the flavors and that there's a lot. And like I said at the beginning, the aroma is really strong, and not in that just generic wine smell, but like you can actually smell the oak and the earthiness of it as well. It's very good. All right, I'm going to slide this over, and we're going to keep talking about comics. Up next, we have The Schlub, issue 2 from Image Comics. This is Ryan Stegman's new book that he is writing. Which we've seen a lot of Ryan Stegman writing in the last year or so, just picking up different threads and books, and so it's cool to see him just take on one of his own. And this is on his imprint at Image KLC Press. But this is the story of a guy who is kind of a jerk. He feels like he's very victim blaming for he's always the victim. He's a guy who his wife left him because he was a jerk to her. His family kind of doesn't talk to him anymore. He's a dentist, and he's terrible with customer service. And it's just always really mad about how his brother's more successful than him. And in issue 1, when he's sitting there complaining while he's supposed to be working on somebody's teeth, something happens and a superhero crashes in to his place, and the two of them end up switching bodies, and now he is inside of the body of the superhero, and the superhero is inside his very out of shape body that the superhero can't stand being in. And the two of them have to learn a little bit about themselves on this process, but also figure out how to save the day. And of course, our schlub here, Roger, he is not understanding how to be a hero in any capacity, and even when he tries to do good, it always goes wrong because he doesn't pay attention to other people. He has no concern with the world around him, and so he's doing a very, very bad job. It's a very funny book, and Stegman is definitely telling a really great story with this. So if you like reluctant heroes, if you like bad heroes, if you like Freaky Friday kind of stories, this is definitely a good one for you. And again, it's very, very funny, very satirical to the superhero world. So check it out. Gunbreed issue 2 from Blood Moon Comics. This is your old Western story that with a haunted twist on it. This is about a guy who dies and goes essentially to the afterlife and basically makes a decision that he will work for the devil. Kind of like Spawn, coming up and taking out demons and bad people. And in this issue, he's talking to people from his town about helping them. They were all killed, and he is supposed to help usher their spirits essentially from where they are to the afterlife. But in order to do that, he has to solve the situation of what happened to them and kind of face all of that, which means that he has to face a lot of what happened to himself. And for him, in Spawn, it's all about his wife and wanting to protect his wife and wanting to get back to her. For this hero, he is kind of doing recompense for the loss of his son. And so he's kind of like, I can help you guys, but I'm really just doing it because I want to see if this has anything to do with my son. And if you have any information about it, pass it my way. But if you put, I guess we do have Gunslinger Spawn, so I was going to say if you put Spawn in the Old West, this is kind of what you would get, but we do have that. This is a really cool designed character, and I love that he's just really trying to figure out like how to save his son and himself, even though it was already too late when he started. So, and again, Blood Moon is just crushing it right now, so I recommend you pick up anything Blood Moon does. The Hollywood Special, issue 2 from IDW and their Dark Horse imprint. This is a Dark Spaces story, and in the Dark Spaces world, this is all about how, like, places in the world that have these really dark, crazy things. And this one takes place with a woman who is on a train selling victory bonds and during the war, and she's kind of like going around different places, and it's her and another like big name guy, and they end up going to this one small town, and a little girl is the only one on the train platform waiting for them. And she's like, I promised my friend that I would get his plane signed for him if something happened to him. And they're like, well, what happened? Where is everybody? And she's like, oh, the mines crashed in and everybody's trapped. And so they're like, we have to go help these people. We might be the only people who ever know that this happened. And so they've gone into this town and they are trying to help unravel the people from the mine. But of course they're like, you can't be here. Like, you got to go. Like, we got to put you somewhere else. This isn't safe. There's some creatures, like things possibly looming in there that we're seeing some hints about. But this woman also has this weird connection to it because she feels like it's her own daughter who she's been estranged from for years. And so she keeps thinking that she's seeing her in this mine shaft openings that she's able to see through. And so she's having some very haunted visions of her own. Honestly, this is like going to be very like Silent Hill in the 1940s. It's just building up this really, really creepy environment around this story. And every time you're like, oh, maybe it's just going to be pretty straightforward, like this eerie, creepy haze starts to really flow in through the story and the art. And so wherever we go in that issue 3, it's going to be insane, and I cannot wait to see what happens next. Night Cruising, and this possibly is the only issue, maybe an issue 1, I'm not really sure, from Floating World Comics. It doesn't have a number on it, but this is a crazy story about a guy who goes on a date, and then he drops his date off, and she's like, okay, well, don't go out and have too much of a crazy night, and he's like, oh, of course not, and then immediately does all of the most terrible things that I could possibly list right now, from what he could go out and do. Like, the first thing he does is he goes to a place and hires, like, a prostitute, and she's like, what do you want to do? And he's like, I was thinking about cruising down to this other part of town and possibly, like, beating some people up or something. And she's like, I mean, what did you want to do? Like, why did you hire me? And he's like, oh, yeah, we'll get to that. And then he goes on this, like, night cruise, and he goes down to this other part of town, and he's, like, meeting with somebody who's like, oh, here's all the people I know about that you could just kill and you could go after. And so it's very dark, very strange story, but it's got that classic, like, cartooning in it. So if you are into those, like, I'm, like, not even sure how to explain it, because it does have, like, he has, like, this creepy, like, wolfness to him, so it's, like, almost like a regular slice of life story, but there's this weird undertone to it, and so it's like, okay, we're following a serial killer in a slice of life murder mystery kind of story, but there's something about this killer that is even darker. So, again, if you want to follow the serial killer and you want to see the darkness, this is going to be that book that kind of puts you from his perspective.
All ages?
No. No. And speaking of non-all ages books, next we have Sainted Love, #1 from Vault. This is a very mature title. I'm not going to be able to show you a lot of it, but I recommend you read it either way. But this is the story of a couple who, I can show you this, that are in, like, 1907, and one of them is a boxer and the other one is an inventor. And they have all these people who are chasing after them and trying to expose them for being a homosexual couple in 1907. And they're like, you can't prove anything, there's nothing, and even if you could, like, it's just a relationship, what does that matter? And they've been kind of trying to hide. Well, they end up getting caught very early on, and our inventor has invented time travel. And so he's like, I'm going to get out of this situation, I'm going to jump, and he jumps through time. And his partner ends up trying to chase after him and ends up going to the same time period, but, you know, as time travel works, they didn't land there at the same time. And so this is kind of star-crossed lovers having to find each other constantly in worlds where they are not accepted just because they love each other, and them trying to build this world of acceptance for themselves, no matter where they land. And I love both of these characters, because you do have the one who's like, I'm going to punch. Like, you would think he's the one that's like, I'm going to punch and I'm not going to ask questions, but he's really sensitive in the end. And then you have, like, your inventor who just really wants to build out perfect spaces and just kind of wants to be the one who makes the world a safer place for everybody. And it's an absolutely wonderful story. It's Steve Orlando. He always does a really great job of balancing, giving you some kind of genre fiction that really just explores queer romances that are beautiful and wonderful. And he is nailing it once again in this, already on issue 1. Check it out for sure. It's going to be a good one. There's going to be so many emotional moments. But again, highly mature title. So if you don't give it to children. There's a lot of nudity in the book. So I'm just going to put it that way. Very adult, but if you are an adult and you want a good romance story that has a little sci-fi twist to it, this is going to be the one for you. Rat Queens, Sisters, Warriors, Queens from Image Comics, and this is a one-shot to finally wrap up the world of Rat Queens. So this is going to give you a dual story. It's got us at in the future where our Rat Queens from the long-running series are older, and they have come back to meet each other for the first time. And we are also seeing at the same time the backstory of the last time that the Rat Queens worked together and what caused them to separate and why we haven't seen anything from the Rat Queens in a really long time. And they are, so we see that them learning, like, maybe we're at different points in our life, maybe we've grown apart from each other, this isn't who, we don't need to always work together. And then it's kind of them coming together as older ladies and saying, I learned a lot, you know, this is what I learned from my time with each of you, and this is how I became a better person because of it. And honestly, as a 40-year-old adult, this was such an incredible book for me, because we always think like, oh, well, I didn't stay friends with that person I was friends with my whole life. And like, is there something wrong with that? Or we think, oh, I have to be friends with people because we've been friends for so long. And this book kind of just gave you the freedom to grow and to become who you needed to be, and to understand, let me check that really fast. Okay. And to understand that that's okay. And then also to understand, like, as an adult, that you did still learn from those relationships. Even if they didn't work out, you still learned from them, and they were quintessential in who you were and your growth as a person and the things that we do in our lives, and just how much we can impact other people and how much we can impact ourselves, and how much we can be impacted by others. It's just such a fantastic story. If you've never read Rat Queens, you could probably still read this. You wouldn't necessarily understand each person's character dynamic and why, but because they do, and this is the last time we saw each other, and they explain every character so perfectly and their connections to each one, and then they show it, it's really great. It kind of actually reminded me of the like the way A League of Their Own works, where you have them show up at the beginning and they're like, oh, I don't really want to be here, but like, I guess I should go. And then you see the backstory, and then you come back and it's like, I'm so glad I showed up today and I love everything that I experienced with you guys. This is great. Honestly, you could read the Image First issue 1 of Rat Queens, and then you could read this and you would still be fine and you would love it. I've got 2 picks this week. Number 1 is Stuff of Nightmares, Red Murder. This is a one-shot from Boom Studios in the world of Stuff of Nightmares. So, if you read Goosebumps as a child, and then you read Fear Street as a teen, Stuff of Nightmares is R.L. Stine giving you your adult horror stories in a comic book form.
He's on the cover, too.
R.L. Stine, yes. Yeah, I love that. Put himself in there. But this is a one-shot, like I said. We had a full series from Stuff of Nightmares that was a 4-part series that came out, and there is a trade paperback of it that kind of give us a Frankensteinian modern tale. This is your classic slasher, and this is the story of a guy who invented a character named Red Murder, and he made all of these comic books about him, and then they got turned into movies, and he didn't get to retain the rights. The movie rights came and like kind of swept up everything, and now of course the actor who plays Red Murder in the movie is famous, but the creator of Red Murder is not, and you kind of get his anger towards the fact that like nobody cares that he's there. Like, he's at the Comic-Cons and people are just like, okay, I'm waiting for Red Murder, and he's like, that's me, like, I'm the guy, and they're like, no, we don't know who you are, and they're like, I'm the guy, like, I'm the guy that made him. And so you kind of just get a little bit of the backstory, and it all follows the creator as he goes through this journey, and we get the whole thing, and it is slasher perfection. If you are a fan of slasher movies, or slasher stories, or Goosebumps, and you want an adult version of Goosebumps, I love it. Matt's wearing a Goosebumps shirt as I say this. If you want an adult version of Goosebumps, R.L. Stine is giving it to you. There's a reason he wins the R.L. Stine Award for Best Writer every year, and it's not just because his name is on it. This is a great story. Check it out. There's some really cool, this is the Francavilla cover. There are also black and white, or not black and white, that's wrong. There are glow-in-the-dark covers, and there are like 2 or 3 of them. It's a big thing for Stuff of Nightmares. They always make glow-in-the-dark Francavilla covers, which is super cool. It's kind of putting all of my favorite things together, because you give me horror made by R.L. Stine with Francavilla covers. I just love it. Check it out. One shot. This is going to be it until Christmas time, and then we're going to get a one-shot from Stuff of Nightmares called Santa Slays. So, check it out for sure. And then, lastly, in Picks of the Week, we've got Rumpus Room, Issue 1 from AWA. And this guy that I somehow sometimes like his writing, Mark Russell. You just know if Mark Russell has a book out, it's probably a pick of the week or like gonna be like in my favorite books ever. But this is actually a cover drawn by Mark Russell too, which I love. This is the story of, I'll just show you this because it's so weird. This is the story of a woman whose sister has gone missing, and her sister had a job working for like a very well-known one percenter who is an industry man, and he kind of just fires all of the people and they just disappear. Like whenever he's over somebody, they just completely disappear off the face of the earth. And her sister was his accountant, and she has gone missing. And so she has come to his house and is like, hey, I'm just wanted to know, like, do you know anything about do you know my sister? Have you seen her? Do you know anything about her? And he's like, no, absolutely. And she's like, am I being poisoned? Like, I feel like you're poisoning me. And he's like, no, of course not. Except he is. And he is known for his rumpus room. And this is Mark Russell, so we are going to take this in some very weird places. But this very rich man has a room that he stores all the people that he's tired of and he never wants to see again. And then he makes them choose which one of them is going to be sacrificed next. I mean, it tells you in the synopsis like what they're sacrificing for, but I'm not going to tell you because I want you to learn it all when you read the book. So I'm not going to show you the rest of it. But Mark Russell is the master of satire. I mean, he is like Upton Sinclair of comic books, if you read the Jungle and any of those, or with Jonathan Swift with Modest Proposal. Like this is that modern writer who is doing that. And in this, the Mark Russell is wanting to comment on the fact that we all kind of imagine ourselves like trapped in this prison together, and instead of going after the person that imprisoned us, we go after each other. And he has to make this like a crazy extreme way that we're going to do that every time. And this is going to be another Eisner nominated amazing book from Mark Russell. Like I'm just going to say it now. Next year we're going to be like, oh, the Eisner nominated Rumpus Room, because that's what Mark Russell does. He writes extraordinary books. This is no exception. The eccentricities of this one percenter that is going to be our lead villain, and the twists and turns that our main character has already brought to his normal everyday life. Like you feel like you're on volume 2 that you've been reading for a long time when you start on page 1. And it's so well done. Grab it. It's AWA, so you know everything they put out is always good, but grab it and get excited for another great book from Mark Russell. All right, we've got some books in stock this week. We are going to fly through all of the rest of the books that I didn't just talk about. So we've got Static Shock, Shadow of Dakota, issue 6 from DC. Spirit World, issue 5 from DC. This has been a fan favorite for us. We've got Wildcats, issue 11 from DC. And DC right now has Rose Beach on all of the covers. And so we're getting these like Rose, I don't know if it's Beach or Besh, but Rose Besh covers with the cute little chibi rainbow kind of characters, and I love them so much. We've got Power Girl returning to her own title from the pages of Action Comics to the pages of her own book. Power Girl is back with issue 1. Penguin from coming out of the pages of what's going on in all of the Batman lore. We've got Tom King writing a Penguin story, and we are on issue 2 of that. Miracle Man, Neil Gaiman, coming back with issue 6 of the Miracle Man Silver Age story. Green Arrow is on issue 4, and look at this awesome Black Canary cover. I love that Black Canary and Green Arrow are back working together and featured in their own series. Invincible Iron Man issue 10, introducing Mr. and Mrs. Emma Frost. I love that. I love that they allegedly are getting married in this issue, and I love that they are allegedly calling themselves Mr. and Mrs. Emma Frost. Black Hammer is finally wrapping up, and we are on issue 2 of the end of Jeff Lemire's long-running Black Hammer series. Batman Beyond Neo-Gothic issue 3 from DC Comics is out this week. X-Men Days of Future Past Doomsday out again this week. We've got Realm of X issue 2, all part of your Fall of X storyline that is happening right now. Storm issue 5 with this really, really cool cover. I love it so much. Ultimate Invasion hits issue 4. And this is Jonathan Hickman on Ultimate Invasion. And of course, we're leading up to Jonathan Hickman writing the Gods event. Immortal Thor issue 2 out this week. Another fan favorite. People are really excited to see what happens in Immortal Thor. Tales of the Titans issue 3, another Rosebush cover. This one featuring Donna Troy. If you haven't read Tales of the Titans, each one features a different one of the Teen Titans and kind of gives them a new story celebrating each of the members. Death of the Venomverse issue 5. We are seeing all kinds of new symbiotes coming out of the Death of the Venomverse. It's like, hey, we're going to kill them all, but first let's give you a bunch of new ones. Also, we got a Venomized Jeff, the land shark, and that's really what matters. Action Comics issue 1057, continuing to bring us that super family in their own story. Spider-Man India issue 4. Moon Knight, City of the Dead issue 3, and this is featuring Layla from the Moon Knight show in comics for the first time, so we're actually getting to see her Scarab character in the story. Harley Quinn issue 32 with this Jenny Frison variant that was probably my most requested cover this week, and who doesn't love a great Jenny Frison cover. Doom Patrol issue 6 of 7. We are almost to the end of Unstoppable Doom Patrol for this new Dawn of DC title. Batman Brave and the Bold issue 5. And that is not like the Brave and the Bold series of the past that were all ages. That is definitely a very mature adults Brave and the Bold. Blade issue 3. The Avengers issue 5 with this cool Scarlet Witch cover. All Scarlet Witch covers are cool. Detective Comics issue 1074. And, we got 2 more. Batman, Catwoman, The Gotham War. This is the Red Hood book that I thought was a one-shot, but is actually a miniseries. So there will be more of Jason Todd's role in the Batman, Catwoman War. And then Flash relaunched this week as part of Dawn of DC with a Wally West story. So for all you Wally West fans, he is front and center, back at the helm of the Flash. Check it out with that new story. We've got some trade paperbacks in stock. First up is Cosmic Detective, which is done by Jeff Lemire and Matt Kent, which is insanely crazy already because that is a huge lineup of writers working together. And then we've just got some stunning artwork in this book. And this is all about they literally say, imagine if David Cronenberg and William Gibson merged body and soul with Jack Kirby as a way to describe this book. And you can kind of see that with these interiors and with the crazy story. So if you have not read Cosmic Detective, we've got a detective who is trying to figure out who murdered a god before reality is destroyed. And speaking of Jack Kirby, I wanted to bring this. We have the Jack Kirby, The Epic Life of the King of Comics. This was a free comic book day issue, I believe it was last year. And now the whole story is out. If you haven't read it yet, this is going to just tell you everything you need to know about Jack Kirby's life, and Tom Scioli does it, so you get that grand design style fashion artwork on the inside, and which is really cool. They also did one which was a free comic book day this book about Stan Lee, same thing, Tom Scioli, and has that cool style as well. So if you want to know about the 2 people who were really the most impactful at the beginning of Marvel, you should read both of them at the same time. The Vineyard from Aftershock. This is the story of people who run a winery who use the death of people to appease Dionysus so that their wine will be really great. So murder and wine all together. Ranger Stranger from Scout Comics. This is a collection of a lot of the Ranger Stranger story, including the ones that were originally only featured online. So if you want a Adult Swim, what do I always say, the Jack Handy Deep Thoughts from Saturday Night Live, but if they were done more by Adult Swim than Saturday Night Live, this is going to be kind of where that falls. Deadbeats. This is from A Wave Blue World. This is the story of a music shop filled with deadly secrets, and it has one of those Crypt Keeper kind of people who shows us through the cursed records and evil sheet music and all of that, and we do get that opening where it's like, welcome to the shop. Really cool book. Vanish from KLC Press. This is Volume 2, so this is going to get you through issues 5 through 8 of Vanish from the Ryan Stegman Donny Cates series. And then lastly, we're starting to see all of our holiday season books come out. So we've got The Night Before Christmas, the Futurama version, available for those who need to find a nice new book for the 31st century Christmas Eve. I always have people ask me if there are Futurama comics, and so there is, about Christmas, apparently. And then, once again, we are drinking Line 39 Pinot Noir. It's been very delicious. Don't forget to join us this Thursday, October 5th at 7 p.m. for our creator meetup. Wherever you are in your career of creator, whether it's I've always wanted to create something, but I've never tried, or you're selling your books every day, all day on Kickstarter or in stores, doesn't really matter. Come hang out with us, even if you're creating something completely different, like you sew things or you paint things or whatever it is that you like to create. Come talk with other artistic people who just, like to have a good community. That's what we're here for. It's 100% free. It's tons of fun. We'll hopefully see you there this Thursday. Until then, we will see you in shop on Wednesday for New Comic Book Day. Happy reading, everyone. Have a good night. Bye.